Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to our mailbag videos. And I think today is not going to be a 40-minute long video because I think 40 minutes is probably pretty obscene. But we've got less questions this time, but we've got some good questions. But before we get into them, let me talk about a couple things. What I really want to talk about, well, actually, you just say that before you want to talk about something. It isn't what you really want to talk about in comparison to all the other things you want to talk about. But what I do want to talk about is I want to talk about the new Fire Emblem game, which I picked up recently, and it's sort of a turn-based tactical RPG strategy type of deal. And I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan, and this one's really good too. It's really, really good. In fact, it's definitely one of the best tactical RPGs I've played in a long time. And it's on caliber with something like XCOM, I feel. It's not as good as XCOM, but it may be in the running for Game of the Year. So, you know, it didn't get a lot of publicity or anything like that. So if you happen to own a 3DS and you want something to play on it, go and pick up Fire Emblem, because it's fantastic. Other things is I got a couple of books here. I got, one that I want to talk about. I got The Brief History of Neoliberalism by David Harvey, and that's a very, very interesting book. I don't know if anybody has read The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, but essentially what this book is, it's similar in message, but vastly different in tone, because I like the message of The Shock Doctrine, but I despise the tone. I thought it was so pandering. I thought it was so this gross over appeal to emotion, and I don't know, I almost felt like she was trying to use the tactics that she deplored in her book, kind of this whole shock and awe type of thing, but she was trying to, you know, I felt like she was more trying to win you over through shock and awe rather than actual, you know, evidence-based arguments. So, Brief History of Neoliberalism has a very similar message, but it doesn't have that overbearing emotional tone that I really didn't like in The Shock Doctrine. So this came recommended to by a friend, and I've been plowing through it, and it's really good. David Harvey, he's kind of a Marxist, economist, sociologist, you know, wears a couple different hats, but he's also a very interesting character and a very good author. So I'm interested to read more. And lastly, I picked up The Emperor's Handbook by Marcus Aurelius, and unfortunately, this book isn't, it's not small enough to fit in my blazer pocket, and I wish it was, so I could take it with me everywhere and expound wisdom onto people. But for those of you who don't know what The Emperor's Handbook is essentially, it's written by Marcus Aurelius, obviously, and what it is, it's his own personal musings. These writings were never meant for public consumption, that he would just constantly be reminding himself to be a better person, to always do your duty, you know, don't fall off the wagon, always remain steadfast in these stoic values. And there's a lot of you know, nuggets of truth and kernels of wisdom to be digested here. So let me read to you from The Emperor's Handbook. Treat with the utmost respect your power of forming opinions, for this power alone guides you against making assumptions that are contrary to nature and judgments that overthrow the rule of reason. It enables you to learn from experience, to live in harmony with others, and walk in the way of the gods. So there you go. There's your wisdom bomb for today. Alright, anyway, onwards to questions. So, first one comes from MN Rapper. He says, you know, long story short, basically, I have a question for you. I saw in some of your videos that you put on the site that you like Liebach, which is a fucking awesome band from my country, and I love it too. And in some of your older videos, they contained a metal intro. As a music enthusiast, I wanted to ask you, which genre of music is your favorite and why? Thank you for answering my question. Sorry for any bad English. So, I'm a huge music enthusiast as well. That is one thing I've always been very jealous of, is people who have musical talent. I really wish I had a musical talent, but I just don't. But I love music. There's rarely a time you find me where I'm not listening to music. You know, I've got a huge appreciation for it. But I guess if you were to ask me to distill a favorite genre, it would be tough. I mean, like music from all genres. I never want to. I think there's good music in all genres, and I don't ever want to declassify music, any type of music just because it happens to be in a certain genre. But I give you guys, I guess, a top three is I really like electronic music, and I know there's a ton of subgenres of electronic music. House, trance, electro, dubstep, drum step, drum and bass. The list goes on and on and on. But I'm just gonna put them all under electronic. I love electronic music. It's generally stuff I listen to most often. But I guess my other genres would be I really like 90s grunge music, because that was the kind of music that I grew up on. Bands like Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, those guys, all of them are great. I would probably say that Soundgarden is my favorite of those sort of 90s grunge bands. Their new CD actually came out recently, the first one in I think it was 12 years, and it was pretty good. It wasn't on the caliber of something like Super Unknown or Bad Motorfinger, but it was still really awesome, and it was really great to hear them back in action. And there's some really killer tracks on that CD. I've actually had the opportunity to see the frontman Chris Cornell in concert, and that was also amazing. I also like their the side project he did with the guys from Rage Against the Machine. Audioslave was really great too. And then from Audioslave I got into Rage Against the Machine, which is I also really enjoy. Excuse me. But the last one, I guess, in terms of my favorite genres, is I like Russian. I like Russian rap, because I just love the way the Russian language flows, and it fits the genre of rap so well. And especially when you listen to the actual lyrics and the stories of a lot of these Russian rappers, they've been through a lot of crap. It makes the whining and crying that a lot of rappers from North America go through. It looks like they're living lives that are constant carnivals in comparison to some of the stories that these guys have to tell. But I guess those are my top three favorites. So moving on, this one comes from Hanzaho, and he says, "What do you believe to be the time frame for when the world will adopt a global governmental structure, or government/society? And will humans ever accomplish a transition to Type 1 civilization?" So let me start off with the first question is, do I think humans will ever establish an overarching global structure? And it's a really tough question to say. I don't see it happening anytime in the foreseeable future. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime if it does. The only thing I could see accelerating that process is some incredible global epidemic, like a plague or famine or an alien invasion or something, that forces all of humanity to put aside their differences and come together and work as a whole to create a global organizational structure. If anything, it almost seems like powers are devolving. The kind of thing was the countries would get bigger and bigger and bigger, it seemed, through time. The whole nation-state Treaty of Westphalia type of deal. The nation-state was the most sovereign entity, and the bigger nation-states had superior advantage, or they had advantages over smaller nation-states. They got kind of kicked around. But it seems over time that rather than these governmental structures conglomerating into bigger nation-states and eventually some sort of world government, it seems like power is devolving and being given down to more local levels because of the speed in which information moves now, that it makes it less necessary to have these kind of overarching structures than it was in a time where information moved much slowly, or much more slowly. So in this kind of time frame that we have, feels like we don't need these kind of bigger governmental structures. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. And in terms of your next question, he's referring to, I was aware of this concept beforehand, which is it's a concept talked by sort of a physicist, Dr. Kaku, I believe his name is, and the whole idea of that there's different types of civilizations, and they're all kind of amplified by various attributes. And humans right now are type 0 civilization, and type 0 civilizations are one that have to use fuel, or sorry, to use oil to fuel our planet, and oil to fuel our planet. What the hell am I talking about? Oil to sort of fuel our lives and our infrastructure. And then a type 1 civilization is a civilization that is able to use the entirety of the planet in order to power its civilization, and use things like volcanoes and earthquakes and all these types of things that scare the crap out of us. But maybe one day we'll be able to use those types of things to power our civilization. And then Dr. Kaku talks about how this is a dangerous transition because humans are still barbarous and passionate, and if that this could lead to, I guess, this transition from type 0 to type 1 can lead to destruction of our species. And I do believe we'll make this transition from type 0 to type 1, because I am optimist, and I believe in human spirit, and I believe in human intelligence, and I believe in humans' ability to overcome any obstacles that are set in our way. I believe that the highest power in existence right now is human consciousness and human intelligence. So I've got nothing but hope for the future in terms of that. So I think we will make that transition. Next, Vanessa says, thank you for countless hours of entertainment, and you're very welcome. This one comes from Deno256. He says, I miss the coffee house videos. Will you ever bring them back? And this is kind of like mini coffee houses, because I get to answer a variety of different questions, and some of them are more, some pretty weighty topics which people have, asked me to discuss. And doing coffee house videos were always a ton of work, and it always just became too much work for me to be able to do. And part of the reason why I did these kind of videos was to bring that back, in a sense, because I knew people would ask me types of political and philosophical types of questions, and would give me a chance to talk about them more. So rather than spending 10 to 15 minutes grappling with one issue, I can grapple with a whole bunch of different issues in one longer video. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I started doing these mailbag segments. Next comes from this is from Phil. And Phil says, I was wondering if you could tell me what happened to the Universalis 3 Let's Play. And I think, I can't remember, it's been a while, but I stopped it mainly because my save got destroyed somehow. My save, I think it was either through like an upgrade from the new sort of Divine Wind expansion pack for EU3. It made saves incompatible, and somehow or another I lost the save to that Let's Play, so I couldn't continue it. And will I carry on and do another? I don't think so, but in terms of his next question, we'll do a Let's Play of Europa Universalis 4 when it comes out. The answer is yes. So if we're going to do something along those lines, I'll do a EU4 Let's Play instead of doing another EU3 one. Next comes from Clever Dogbert. He says, you occasionally mention philosophical points in your videos. Have you read or are you interested in Nietzsche? And Nietzsche is my least favorite philosopher on the planet. I despise him. I think most of I think he's kind of a joke, and I really don't want to get into it because sometimes I get kind of pumped up about my hatred for Nietzsche. It's pretty tough in terms of philosophers who I hate more, Nietzsche or Ayn Rand. They're both, it's a constant struggle in terms of which one I like less, but I really despise his ideas of, the weak sacrificing for the strong, and really the entire society is built up in a way to keep the strong down, and there's a lot of garbage in there. And if I were to go into it, that would deserve its own hour-long video. Next comes from Comrade Christoph, and he says, as a Canadian, how do you see the issue of Scottish independence and possible end to the United Kingdom as a whole? And he had a whole big long thing. I just took the gist of what he was asking. But I always, being Canadian, I guess I've always looked down on independence movements. I always have very little sympathy for independence movements just about anywhere in the world, because there's a whole sovereignty question with Quebec, and Quebec has tried to secede before, and right now that there's a kind of a lid on that pot, but there's always a kind of worry that it's going to bubble over again, and no one in the rest of Canada really wants it to happen. Nobody here wants to see the country split up, unless you live in Alberta, and then you want to leave on your own too, but that's another question. But so it's like anywhere in the world, like I have these, like like the Chechens and Russia, like no sympathy for me for that independence movement. So the Scots and the Welsh don't get any sympathy from me. There's no. I guess you can kind of make the argument that maybe they used to be kind of their own independent countries at one point, but still, I think I've never lived in the United Kingdom, so I can't comment too much on the cultures and the feelings there. But I'd like to think, or at least from an outside perspective, the United Kingdom as it stands right now, it works. There's really no reason for these countries to break up. There's no real tangible benefit. It's I hear some things like there are certain states in the United States that are talking about secession, and if they're like these southern states that really despise Obama because he's trying to take our guns and blah blah blah. But these southern states, they talk about secession and how they want to secede from the Union. And like if you seceded, you would be begging to come back in, like in a couple of years down the road, because you just don't have the economic wealth and resources to sustain an independent country with an independent trade policy and all that type of stuff. And I don't think Scotland or Wales have the wealth and resources to really survive as an independent nation, and the population and so on and so forth. So that's my opinion, and I am sure that's one that's probably going to get a lot of pushback. Next comes we're actually this seems like it's going on shorter than it really is, because we're at like minute 17, and I feel like I've only been talking for 5 minutes. Next comes from Pesto 262. And he says, "Are you worried that if you become a politician, they will use your fondness of Stalin, since he is often regarded as an evil person in history, in attack ads? And how would you combat these ads?" It's definitely something I've thought about, because I was talking with the candidate who's running in the provincial election here in Penticton. The guy's name is Richard Cannings, or Dick Cannings, and he writes bird books. He's a great guy. He's like He's an old dude. He's like 70 years old, and he's the nicest guy on the planet. But he's like a biologist and a doctor, and he's one of the most renowned like bird scientists in the world. And he's written a ton of books about birds in this area of the country. And you look at him, you'd be like, this guy doesn't seem like a politician at all. He's too nice. That's what my dad told me when he saw him. He's like, this guy's too nice for politics. He's gonna get eaten alive. But Dick's awesome. He's a great guy, and I really hope he's gonna win. Obviously, because I'm spending a considerable amount of time volunteering for his campaign. But anyway, I was talking with him, and he said that they ask you when they nominate, when the candidate gets nominated, they have to go through a process of like background checks, and you have to tell them, do you have like any controversial blogs or opinions or that type of stuff that might come back and bite the party. And that would be, something I'm quite worried about, because obviously it wouldn't be very difficult to find something like that, if I were running. But I mean, we're talking like 10, 20 years down the road when I, really get serious about trying to run for, a federal office here. So by that time, I mean, I like to think this YouTube channel will still be going 10 years down the road, but I don't know if that's like really a feasible thing to think about. So by that time, it maybe all this it won't be there, it won't exist, and maybe it won't come out of whatever plane of existence and come back and attack me. But I do worry about in these TV ads, it'll be like, you know what, he was a communist type of deal, and the kind of way I combat that as I talk about my own political history. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time with the NDP and volunteering for them. I mean, assuming that at this point, it's 10 years down the road, and that was back when I was in college and I was young and so on and so forth. But I don't think it's going to be a super huge issue, but it is something that I see might be a thorn that I have to deal with in the future. But I'm certainly never going to stop doing these videos just because I'm worried about my political fortunes that may or may not happen. So next comes from Taylor T. Berry, and he says, do you think the American economic issue is a sign of downfall and receding power? And if America becomes economically and politically unstable, how would this affect Canada? So, to the first question, it's America is a country that has a ton of resources, it has a ton of population. It's got a lot of wealth. Obviously, I don't think that wealth is spent very wisely or efficiently, but I don't see America stopping to be an influential force in the world for a very long time. I think it will happen just because of your own kind of trends and forces of history. Countries rise and fall, and for whatever reasons, and eventually, America will not be as in a dominant position as it is now. But there's no question that American dominance in the world is receding. It is going away, and they're ceding it to other spheres, like the Asian sphere and the European sphere, and there's talks about the South American sphere of power rising as well. South America, the Latin Americans. I love Latin America. I love that area of the world, and it's very interesting to see that area, the Latin American area, is the only place in the world right now where income inequality is shrinking. A place that was defined so long by this kind of polarizing rich and poor is having these gaps shrinking. It's the only place in the world, and it's very interesting to watch that kind of stuff play out. But I like I said, I don't think America is going to stop being a force in the world. And who knows? I mean, yes, things are in recession, but countries bounce back. And I can quote Winston Churchill because he's a fairly non-offensive person to quote, generally speaking. That Americans always do the right thing once they've exhausted all other options. So America is consistently a country that will surprise you. I feel like it's the kind of country that just when you're ready to discount them entirely, they figure their shit out. So I'm not going to come out here and discount America at all. But I definitely would say that it's not on the right path right now. And if the next question, if America becomes economically and politically unstable, how will that affect Canada? And the answer is it'll affect us big time. Because a huge portion, it's an overwhelmingly huge portion of our economy is tied to America. It's like 80% of our trade is with America. A lot of the way things, what happens in America is going to affect us here. Like there's that really famous quote by one of our prime ministers, Pierre Trudeau, that living next to America is like sleeping with an elephant. That no matter how gentle or even tempered the beast, one is aroused and one feels every twitch and grunt and movement. So yeah, no matter what America does, we're going to feel it here in Canada, and that's part of the reason why there's a big push in Canada to diversify our trade. And we're looking to people like people in Asia, and we're trying to make oil deals with China because we want to we want to sell our resources to not just America. We want to sell them to other countries, and if the resources in Canada are going to be developed no matter what, and they're going to be sold no matter what. And if America doesn't want to buy them, then we'll sell our oil and gas somewhere else. My big issue with that is that I wish Canadians got a bigger percentage of those profits and of those revenues, because in countries like Saudi Arabia, the state gets like 90% royalties on its oil sales. In Canada, it's like 30% or something like that. And I wish that Canada received more of a share of that wealth in terms of its own resources, rather than going into the hands of multinational millionaires. But that's one of the things that is happening in Canada. We are looking for other ways to diversify our trade and sell to other countries. And it's great because Stephen Harper, he would go to, he was a big free Tibet guy, and he'd always be beating the drum about how China's evil, man. They have all these awful human rights records. They're crapping all over Tibet. We should never do any business with them. And of course, now he's completely changed his tune on the whole subject. And China's great. Please come, China, come and do business with us. And you see a reversal too. A lot of conservative pundits also feel the same way. You'll see, Canadian conservative pundits talking about how awful China is. Now they're talking about how great China is and how it'd be awesome if they bought some of our oil. Okay, next question comes from John Harris, and he asks, will we see a return of the War Room podcast? And for those of you who don't know, the War Room was a podcast I did on my website with a bunch of people, and we talked about games and answered questions, and it was a lot of fun. But that band is essentially broken up. I'd love to do it again, but a lot of those people are still bitter and angry with me, and they can sit and stew and brood all they want. I don't care. I'm totally willing, if people want to see it again, I'm totally willing to bring back that podcast. Absolutely. The only person from the podcast I still really talk to on a regular basis is Lucy. She's one of my best friends, and we talk just about every single day. And I know, okay, well, this camera's weird. Every so often it just stops recording, and you need to restart it. But anyway, now I've talked to her about it, and I think she would be willing to redo the Warren podcast, because it was something I had a lot of fun doing, and it had some of the most hysterical moments of the past whatever, of the past long time. There you go. How's that for vagueness? And if I have time and I can go back through my files and maybe find a clip or two and splice them into this video, and see some of the kind of stuff that used to happen as part of that podcast.
Next one comes from Jamie Simmons, and his tagline is "Can I have a hug?" And he says, "I have several questions for you today, or yesterday, or last week, and whenever this email was sent. Besides all these strange time dimension things." And he says, "Lucy, can I have a hug? Because my Imperial Guard army keeps getting swept off the tabletop at my local games shop workstore, or Games Workshop store. Sorry."
Well, obviously the reason why is because you suck at being an Imperial Guard commander, because you shouldn't lose playing the Imperial Guard. You need tanks, all kinds of tanks, and to not suck. That's what you need right now. And I will not give you a hug because you suck at the game.
Because I'm a cold-hearted person.
Well, that's
doesn't
kind of harsh.
About you or any of your fucking problems.
Apparently so. Anyway, do you find the representation of sexual scenes in sexual scenes in video games morally right or wrong? I guess it would be. I don't think it is moral. I don't think it has any kind of moral connotation.
I think anything that gives you an erection should be morally correct.
I would agree.
This is Card's moral compass. Anything that gives you an erection is automatically by default morally right.
How about pedophilia?
Oh God. Well, usually I don't really care what's morally right or wrong as long as the people in the scene are hot. So I guess.
What do you use as your moral compass, Lucy?
Well, obviously, since I can't have an erection, I don't know. I don't think I have a moral compass at all.
Oh, obviously. Well, obviously, women are incapable of telling what's morally right or wrong. It seems.
Obviously.
Yeah. I really like the idea of like Master Chief being a box of armor and then coming to have like a little bit of a personality. It's very like Hegelian in this sort of he's going through steps of life and encountering various conflicts, and through these conflicts he is adapting sort of a personality bit by bit. Sorry. Anyway, I every time I get to bring up an obscure philosopher, I buy myself a Coke. So there we go. Anyway, the next question comes from Ben Ruse Damie. Hopefully that's right. Anyway, he says, "Hello, Stalin and Lucy and the crew of the War Room podcast by the Warlord, aka Sergeant Barry from Warlord Order. This will be 2 questions. Now the question: do you guys think it is assault to punch somebody?" the person being a jackass, lazy fag who tries to put all the work on me or Aaron or Gabriel because he wants to have an off period and relax and listen to music, and put the work on a more capable person like me, or capability person like me. Aaron or Gabriel, usually Logan, aka person, is talking to Gabriel about his problems.
What is that?
And he has success and complaints. Example: girlfriend hated him. Class his shoulder.
If my friend had grammar like that, I'd make him work too. I'm gonna talk to that.
Sorry, continuing. Girlfriend hated him, and his shoulder that is injury. Gabriel being a nice Gabriel being the nice person that he is, and friend does not stop him or interrupted Logan when talking to him. Do his job! Exclamation. So Logan usually does nothing 99% of the time, every day. So what are you guys' opinion on this question?
Alright. We should like try to get this guy some legitimate advice, because he sounds like he lives a very troubled life.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
First step
I think
to solving all your problems would be learning basic English, and go from there.
Go from there. Then you can learn. Then you can go to a law book and see if it's assault.
This is from Barry Damie. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And this was the guy who read us in the awesome question last week that was just like made no sense.
What was the question last week?
It was like, is it assault to punch somebody? And then he goes on to the story that makes no sense, and it has like spelling and grammar that's just all over the place. But anyway, he says, "Hi, Stalin, Lucy, and crew. It's me, Ben Ruse." And then he has something written, which I'm pretty sure is Arabic. Again, why I wanted Callie on the podcast, because I think he speaks Arabic, or he's taking it at least. And he says, "First, let me say this. Sorry, Stalin and the crew, about the question I sent in the previous podcast. The question was with the horrible grammar and spelling errors. Yeah, the question was so poorly written that I was so pissed off at Logan. It also could have been I was worried about jail for the next year because of my horrible action I committed. So yeah, sorry."
Thanks for sending that in.
I think you and Logan need to stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Also, I do not know what ideas and thoughts were streaming through my mind at the current moment of time. WTF was I thinking? Now question, which of the Republican candidates will win the primary to face Democratic running president for re-election? Who will face Barack Hussein Obama in the election of 2012? What are your thoughts and opinions on the subject of the question? Just to say, I choose Rick Perry or Herman Cain. Why Rick Perry? Because of Governor of Texas. He did extremely stupidest job. He created more than 1/3 of jobs in U.S. economy. Recovery began in 2009, making Texas job
What the fuck
unemployment
does this have to do with
8.2%.
anything?
8.2%, well below the national average of the U.S. As well, Rick Perry improved economy stands of Texas. Why Herman Cain? Because Herman Cain is to bring so many important reform to table. Example, tax plan 999. It is simple and very easy to understand, and it will bring the current tax code. Being balanced to the current tax code. Yes, 999 does make lower tax pay more taxes
You just copied
than
this
current tax
Wikipedia.
code,
What is going
but those taxes will bring in money to boost economy. It also stop hidden government taxes. And then he writes something in Arabic here. And
Okay,
well,
man, next time you have a thought, let it go. Just,
I want this guy to write in every week.
just
I actually,
don't
you said
type
he was
it.
Arabic or something? I was
Yeah.
planning on taking a trip to the Middle East, and I was wondering if I could hire him as a translator.
In any case, like I said, I'd be totally willing to bring it back, but it would have to be a combined effort with people who used to be on the podcast with me. Or I could just bring it back and just unilaterally decide I'm just going to bring in a whole new group of people. That's always a possibility, but we'll see. And our last question of the day comes from Kaiser Alex the First, and he says, I know I sent you a question already for the mailbag videos, but here's another. Who's your favorite character in Kado Shoujo? I started playing it a couple days ago, and your description of it in the game is pretty much, in your Game of the Year video, is pretty much exactly how I feel about it. And, so he's asking me, favorite character, right? Yes. Favorite character? Well, the Kado Shoujo is an incredible game, and it has a lot of, salience to me, because I think I talked about this in, my drunken Black Ops Let's Play, and I rambled on about how, every girl in the game represents a girl I was with at some point in my life, and how I go through it and I reflect on my own self-evolution and where I've come from, and that's one thing. I've got a lot of great ex-girlfriend stories, because every girl I've pretty much ever dated has been completely insane. So in terms of that, it just the game means a lot to me, I guess, and maybe it means less to other people. Maybe they don't draw those personal parallels that I happen to draw from the game. But in terms of my favorite character and my favorite storyline, I would probably have to go with I like Shizune a lot. She's a lot of people seem to not like her. I think she's great, but I also like Lily. If I were to pick a least favorite storyline, I don't like Emmy that much, and I don't like Rin that much. Rin is she's not a good person, I feel like, and yeah. But no, it's a tie between Shizune and Lily are my two favorite characters from the Kado Shoujo series. But so yeah, that brings us to the end of our questions. I'll keep sending those questions in for next week. You can get through to me by any number of vehicles, whether that is Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, anywhere else. I'm more than happy to accept questions from any venue. If you want to mail them to me directly, you can do that. If you can find my address, because I'm not giving it out in this video. But yeah, I'll take questions from anywhere. But that pretty much finishes all business except for our giveaway, because this week is the week we have a giveaway. And what I've got, I'm deciding what exactly I'm going to do, because I've got a couple games that have been languishing in my Steam library that I have duplicates of, that I've kind of collected over the past years or whatever, that need to be given away. So what I want to do is I want to do something different than we did last time. I don't want to do another raffle. I want to do something that's a little bit more fun. I want to do a music trivia, because again, we talked about music, and I love music. Video game music too is is phenomenal. Like, you know, there's so much good video game music out there. But the game, the number one game I want to give away is, I'm giving away a copy of Hitman Absolution, which is the newest one, which you know, had mixed reviews, quite honestly, but I played it and I enjoyed it, and you know, I thought it was a lot of fun. So, you know, screw on the people who didn't like it. But it's Hitman and it's great. But I've also got a copy of Shogun 2 to give away, and so I've got two games essentially, and it's going to work in a way that it's going to be first come first serve this time, because last time it was an element of randomness that you know, if anybody could be part of the raffle. This time it's first come first serve. So I want you to guess which game this song is from, and the first person to get it can tell me I want either Shogun 2 or I want Hitman, and then the second person to get it will get whatever game the other person didn't choose. So that's how it's going to work this time. So at the end of the video, tell me which game this song is from, and if you're first, you get your choice of game. If you're second, you get sloppy seconds, so you get whatever that person didn't choose. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. This has been Joseph of Stalin signing off for now. I'll see you guys next time.